Hey gang, welcome back to the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. We are here today with our Hell in a Cell review and recap right here on the Sledgehammer Sports Network, exclusively on YouTube.com. Please mash that thumbs up right down below. Hit that like button. If you're watching right now, let us know you're watching by doing so. You can follow me at Nick Nightmare on Twitter. And if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so that you will always be up to date and notified on each and every new video that comes up to entertain you from us right here in the Sledgehammer Sports Network. Let's get into last night's pay-per-view. Hell in a Cell. It was good. It wasn't great. It had a few great moments, but if we're talking about it as a whole, it was a good show for Raw, because that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like a glorified episode of Raw with some Hell in a Cell matches to sprinkle some confetti on top. But we're not going to try to down it too much. I do have some specific points that we do have to make, and it may not make me a popular guy, but the women should not have main evented this card. And not because that they're women, but because the Hell in a Cell was built to house men. It was not built with a woman's performance in mind. That being said, pulling off a hardcore match or an Extreme Rules match is very hard on the girls, because girls do not, just physically in nature, carry as much body mass as men. Even the most muscular of women. Think about Charlotte for a moment. She's a very tall, very muscular, probably very heavy female. But the impact of her body fails to break a table. These are the reasons why I state that these girls do not need a match like this. And I don't think it should have happened. Throughout the entirety of the main event last night, I was torn. I was very uncomfortable, because on the one hand, let us not take anything away from these girls. They went out there and did the absolute best they could, given the circumstances. And you could see, it was apparent just to the looks in their eyes. They were intimidated. They were not quick to pull the trigger like the men would be, because the men just seemingly by nature are more reckless, and we care less about what's going to happen to our body. But you could see, even prior to certain spots, the concern in each other's faces, and they were totally exhausted before the match even began. The little fight on the outside that led to the climbing of the cage, where both of them were obviously too high and then had to reposition and do something else. They were shooting on the fly. It was obvious there. And then again, Charlotte picks up little 80-pound Sasha and tries to put her through that table. The girl bounces off. Yes, the table broke, but that's because Charlotte really had to force that little girl through that table. The impact was crazy. And then they want to go and sell this like it's Hell in a Cell, Taker and Mick Foley. You want to compare this to that? You want to compare a powerbomb through a table that used to happen every fucking Monday to falling off the top of a cage and need to be carted out? I guess proportionately, because of her body size in comparison to Mick Foley, such a bump would do such a thing. But to echo that sentiment and to try to get us more emotionally invested by copying something that cannot be duplicated, it was just a sad attempt at making this historic. The only thing historic about this whole entire thing is that it's the first time it's ever happened. So if you're talking history, yes, they made history. The girls not only main evented a pay-per-view for the first time, but they took their match inside the Hell in a Cell for the first time. And yes, that's historic. Memorable, few spots maybe. But I don't like it. I don't think that the fans of these girls were ready to watch something like this. And you could see the difficulty that they had throughout the match. There were quite a few spots where these girls just are not physically able to bust the props. At the very end of the match, right before the natural selection, Charlotte, tries to put Sasha Banks through a table. Not once, but twice. And the girl just bounces off like a rubber ball. Are you fucking kidding me? It was unnecessary. And then the match just ended so abruptly. I feel like something went wrong. But I always feel that way when I'm watching Sasha Banks lately, because she's just so... she just gets your sympathy because she's just so small that every time she takes a bump, you just fear for her life. And putting her in this situation was a terrible move. And the whole performance of it, bottom line being, Charlotte wins this match. And why? If Charlotte was going to win this match, why did she lose the belt 3 weeks ago? She should be reigning champion throughout this whole time. Sasha should still have not won the title once, because she should be dominating the division. Are they purposely trying to make her rack up title wins so that they can quickly get her to her father's record? Because that's stupid. That kind of thing happened, it morphed itself. It happened on its own. Ric Flair did not come into wrestling knowing he wanted to be the champion 16 times. The way the business was set up back then was much different. And, that kind of thing, that kind of an accolade was easy to get because his 16 times as the world champion is not for the same company. So, let's be fucking real for a second, WWE. Is that why we're starting to call her Charlotte Flair? Because we're going to try to do that within, the next 3 months? Because that's at the rate we're going, that's what's going to happen. But that's my thoughts on the main event. I'm not going to get too technical with it. It was very uncomfortable to watch. The crowd was into it, and you know what? Fuck the crowd in Boston for booing them when these tables and shit didn't break. What did you expect, guys? Come on. Really. They started off the show with another, because there's two others. Roman Reigns versus Rusev. This was 30 minutes of just all the same shit that we've seen from them over the last month and a half, 2 months, however long it's been. It feels like forever. One decent spot in this match, and it pissed me off beyond no end, because this match just makes it even more apparent that Roman Reigns is Vince McMahon's heir apparent to the throne of John Cena. You tell me one other person in the whole entire world besides John Cena that could be placed into an accolade, which is a useless move now because everybody gets out of it. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later too. Finishing moves are pointless now because everybody hits them and nobody stays down anymore. So what the fuck is the point? Where was I? Rusev, accolade, on the steps. On the steel steps, has Roman Reigns with a steel chain draped around his face, pulling back with all his might. This is one of the most powerful men that you have had in the WWE over the last few years. And Roman Reigns gets out. That should have been the end of the match. Not that Roman Reigns should have lost, but if you were going to have that spot reeks Hell in a Cell moment. If Roman Reigns doesn't tap out to that moment, what the fuck is he ever going to tap out to? No, I don't care that he won, and the match was, it was what it was. They gave each other some brutal shots, but I take umbrage when, they don't use their brains on the booking team, and they have a spot and give Rusev a kendo stick, only to have him whack away at Roman Reigns' well-protected chest and have Roman in the corner selling it like he feels a thing. You are wearing a flak jacket vest. You didn't feel the kendo stick. And if that's the thing that they wanted to do, they should have had him stand there like, hello, I'm wearing a vest. And then maybe have Rusev, remove the vest. God forbid. God forbid we remove that ridiculous vest. protective vest. The only other person in history that's worn a protective vest was D'Lo Brown, and that was stupid then too. But he made it get over because he used it as a comical kind of a gimmick, and he got it over. This match was, nothing, everything we expected. Roman Reigns wins in the end, and that spot was terrible. It had a great moment, and you ruined it because you allowed this man to Hercules himself out of it, and then one spear, and now Rusev was done. It was just, I wasn't a fan of that match at all. And it's not because of the participants, it's because of the way the match went down. It's just not paying homage to Hell in a Cell at all. After that match, what did we have? I don't have them in order here. I have my notes a little in a shambles today. Oh, this is why I forgot, because it was Bayley versus Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke is just fucking terrible, and she illustrates my point more and more every time they put her in the ring. She's terrible. I can't stand it. She doesn't even know how to take a simple kick. It's almost as if she's anticipating every move. Because she, we all know how wrestling works, and she knows what's coming, but it's almost like she knows what's coming. And she can't take a head bump. She throws a punch, and she won't shut her mouth. That so irks me. When she's walking around talking and yelling and this and that, that's not wrestling. Shut your mouth. Wrestle. But she can't wrestle. So, maybe that's her fallback. It's like, well, I'll talk, and that'll get me over. It's not. It's getting me sick. I'm tired of seeing it. But at least Bayley gets the win. Bayley to belly, about 6 minutes in. Bayley needed the win. Obviously, kind of sets her up in line to be the next challenger for the Raw Women's title. After that match, we had Enzo and Cass versus the Club. If I'm going out of order, I apologize. But we're going to get through this together. Enzo and Cass versus the Club. Everybody kind of looked good here. Everybody had their moments. The crowd was hot for Enzo and Cass. Unbelievable. These guys can do no wrong right now. And they're the only New York team in existence that probably got such a warm welcome ever in a Boston, Massachusetts arena. But be that as it may, not a bad match, but, the Club still was made to look like goons here. At one point, Cass was beating the shit out of both of them without Enzo at all. And, but thankfully, in the end, the Club came out with the win because, as I stated in the preview, they needed this win. Enzo and Cass don't need to ever win, but they shouldn't always be losing neither. They've lost now to the Shining Stars and to almost everybody else in this lack of division. But, they don't need it. They're as hot as white lightning, and that's going to continue. And after this loss to the Club, I expect this rivalry to continue, and hopefully one of these guys will end up being tag team champions sometime soon. After this, we had the absolute best match of the night, the match that should have been the main event of the night, and I feel like they definitely knew that, because the way they pulled this match off, they knew that they should have been the end, and anything that came on after this was just going to be dead in the water. They didn't know that going in, but coming out, everything that Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins and Chris Jericho did in that Hell in a Cell match, fantastic. That match screamed Hell in a Cell. We had tables, we had chairs, we had Chris Jericho weaseling his way into the cage, locking the door so that nobody can get him out. We had Owens accidentally, spraying the referee in the face with the extinguisher to allow Jericho that opportunity to weasel his way in. And then we had essentially either one of two ways this was going to play out. Either Owens and Jericho were going to have some kind of a confrontation or some kind of a miscue that would cause him to lose the Universal title, or we were going to have what we did have, which was a 2-on-1 Hell in a Cell match. And it was full of great spots. Tables were broken. That spot, and Seth Rollins is the man. He says he's the man, and he is the man. And he proved it in one move, because he went to go pick up Kevin Owens in a powerbomb, and then, couldn't really maintain his weight so much, so Kevin Owens just kind of dropped down. So then he was holding him, in like a reverse pile driver position, but then would use all his core strength and his inner body to lift this 300-pound man, dead weight, deadlift up into a power pound position, and then take 2-3 steps forward, launching him into 2 tables propped up against the cage. Made me super, super terrified for Kevin Owens because that bump looked horrendous. Oh my God, his neck, the way he was folded up at the end, I was a little concerned, but these are pros, and that's how you're supposed to feel. That's the Hell in a Cell. You know, the 2 chairs were set up, and then they drove Seth Rollins through the 2 chairs at the end. Like, these are moments. These are memorable things that should happen in a Hell in a Cell. And with impact, with force, with ferocity. We've talked now, this is the 3rd Hell in a Cell match, and not one of them had blood in it, which, you know, I could forgive, but, you know, this match is the kind of match where that kind of thing is definitely called for, and should have been highlighted a little better, but, you know, we got what we got, and it's a decent effort. You know, all 3 main events now we've talked about. Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, obviously 2-on-1. You know, they come out in the end still together as the WWE Universal Champion and best friends. And I can't wait to see what they got to say going into tonight, because, you know, either Foley's going to be pissed or Stephanie's going to be pissed, and we know Seth Rollins is going to be pissed, so it should be pretty interesting to see what they have. Hopefully it's not a long, drawn-out 20-minute segment. After the main event, who gets the death slot? The Cruiserweight Championship. In the death slot, following the best match of the night, at the 10 o'clock hour, with 2 of the Cruiserweights that nobody cares about, one of them who happens to be the champion. We talked about it a little earlier. And TJ Perkins isn't connecting to the crowd. Brian Kendrick isn't connecting to the crowd. The 6 men in the opening match in the pre-show are more invested in the crowd. Guys like Rich Swann connected with the crowd. Where the hell is Jack Gallagher? Where is Gran Metalik? Where are these guys? These are the guys that should be fighting for the Cruiserweight title. Now, that being said, I don't mind Brian Kendrick being the champion. It didn't go over big. You know, most people don't get the new Brian Kendrick. Brian Kendrick has been around for so long. He's held multiple titles in the world of wrestling. By him holding the Cruiserweight Championship, immediately gives it a little bit more credibility than it could ever have in the hands of TJ Perkins. And I look forward to see what they're going to do with it. I'm hoping to see real feuds, but, you know, as long as Kendrick has it, he's going to play this wily, evil, you know, mind game kind of character, and we may not get the Cruiserweight style matches that we're looking forward to seeing at some point. But he did have 3 tremendous matches in the Cruiserweight Classic with 3 completely different styles of opponents, and, you know, we just got to see where he goes with it. I'm not upset that, you know, he tricked TJ Perkins into believing he was hurt. I mean, that's a heel thing to do. That's storytelling in the ring. And he lures the guy in, he hits him with a headbutt, rolls him up at a captain's hook. 10 minutes they gave these guys. It was entertaining. It was a little slow, but the crowd was done. The crowd killed this match. They just, you know, at one point they were faint chance of boring. They just didn't care, because the people you have highlighting the division are wrong. They're the wrong people to be doing it. And you shouldn't be having even this match. If you were going to have the Cruiserweight 6-man match on the pre-show, the Cruiserweight title should have opened this show, just like the Cruiserweight should open each and every Monday. Moving on to the New Day versus Cesaro and Sheamus for the tag team titles. What can I say about this? This match actually was not bad as far as, you know, the match goes. But again, it was in that 10 to 10:30 time frame where nobody gives a shit. And the crowd towards the end kind of got pulled back in, because there was a moment where Cesaro had Xavier Woods wrapped up in the sharpshooter, and on the outside we had some shenanigans going on with Sheamus, And Francesca 2 was brought into play, and then Kofi Kingston didn't like that. The ref hears the commotion going on and turns around just in time to see Kofi Kingston kick Sheamus right in the mouth with a Trouble in Paradise and disqualifies the New Day. So they still have the title, but they lost the match. And we would have a miscue between Cesaro and Sheamus during the match. Also, Cesaro taking a bro kick accidentally. And this whole thing is over. I don't know what they're going to do. They can't be partners anymore. They probably won't get another match. If I see them as a tag team tonight, I'm going to scream. Because there's no way they could coexist. They had them in a little segment on that Raw talk that they kept wanting to talk about. I watched it, and at the very end of it, they just showed the two of them bickering and Cesaro kind of walking off. It's just, I don't care. I didn't care at all about it. And it's sad because the New Day, they're great. It's just, it's time for them to do something else. And it's possible they might be teasing, a heel turn for the New Day, because there's rumors that they're going to be champions up until WrestleMania to guarantee that they're going to break Demolition's record and then drop the titles to Enzo and Cass. And in that situation, one of these guys has to be bad, and I think it would obviously have to be the New Day. They started out as a heel team, and if they came full circle and did that and then broke up or whatever, I wouldn't be opposed to that. After that, we had, as we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast, the women's Hell in a Cell match, which I don't want to talk about again. I'm proud of them, and I commend them for putting on a hell of a match. I just wish it didn't happen. I wish I never seen it. It just was almost too much for me. And when you look at this product, and you look at this company and this industry with any kind of common sense and any kind of a brain, you shouldn't want to see something like that. There's no reason why this match couldn't have had some other stipulation. There should have only been one Hell in a Cell match. And it should have closed the show. And it was Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. Even if they did it the same exact way, with Jericho coming in, that was Hell in a Cell. That was the match to see. If I could tell you anything to go back and watch, it would be that match. And go watch the pre-show. And watch that 6-man tag. Great. Unbelievable. Really highlights the cruiserweights. Although the time slot is just ridiculous. So this card suffered from, improper positioning of matches. And lack of story, as we constantly talk about in leading up to it. But all in all, each and every match was, with the exception of Dana Brooke and Bayley, no fault of Bayley, as we said before. Each match was pretty good. They had their moments. Everybody looked good last night. And if this was a Monday Night Raw minus the Hell in a Cell matches, it would have been a good Raw. Would have been a great Raw. Like I said at the beginning, it wasn't a great show. It was just good. It was good. It was good enough for me to not want to come out here and scream my head off and curse the creative, even though they deserve every curse I throw their way. It's hard to know where they're going to go from here. Tonight they need to start building to Survivor Series, because the Survivor Series is right around the corner. We are 3 weeks away from the next pay-per-view. It is a multi-branded pay-per-view. We're going to have 3 interpromotional Survivor Series style matches. One for the world, not for the... one for the women, one for the men, one for the tag teams. Should be interesting to see how these teams end up assembled. They've already started to do so on SmackDown, as they are the smarter of the two shows, of course. And, I'm looking forward to it. I hope they do it well. We're going to have Goldberg and Brock. What else do you think we can have? It's possible, maybe the way the Hell in a Cell ended, that we get Seth Rollins versus Chris Jericho. Rumors are saying Jericho's supposed to be leaving soon. I don't know. Rumors also say Randy Orton's not going to be around for Survivor Series. So what's that team on the other side, on the blue brand, going to look like? The blue brand is white hot right now. I love SmackDown way more than Raw. They're doing everything right. Even everything with the James Ellsworth. It's fine. I don't care. I don't mind. They made him more interesting. They made another star. He may not be, a big, bright, shining star that's going to be around forever, but they made something happen. They did something different. They're thinking outside the box. They're not giving us what Vince thinks. And it is obvious that Vince McMahon, who did not want the girls to main event this show, definitely caved in the end and allowed it to happen. I wish he would have stuck to his guns, because all in all, if they flip-flop the women's match with the Universal title match and they ended the show with that instead, it would have made for a much better feel of the show, and I think people would have went out way more satisfied with that, because having Sasha Banks lose the title in her hometown, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And when I don't understand is when I get angry. But we're not going to get angry. We're going to wrap it up on that. I want to thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for sitting through Hell in a Cell with me and coming here to talk about it. We got some great stuff coming up on the network. As I've been plugging, we have SCW, Sledgehammer Championship Wrestling, our own original Monday Night Raw show generated by WWE 2K17. I'm trying to get the equipment to start live streaming that bitch, but as of right now, I'm recording my matches, I'm recording my commentary, and then I'm posting them up once it's all assembled. Eventually, it's going to become more streamlined as we get more assembled here at the Sledgehammer Sports Network. I'm going to leave a link to the video down in the description box below. Also, we had a new episode of The Nightmare Room this weekend go up. We talk a little bit about the World Series, my thoughts on last week's Raw on SmackDown, and a preview of last night's Hell in a Cell, which is a little redundant. And that's going to be it. And I want to thank you guys for coming here. Please, if you haven't done so, hit that like button. Make sure you've subscribed if you have not done so already. We are going to be back all this week. We got part number 2 of episode number 0, the second round of our tournament to see who's going to try to get the WWE Heavyweight Championship away from Dean Ambrose before we break off into SCW and have the green and purple brand, which is going to dominate YouTube. And I want you guys to help me do that. So, you want to support the channel, please be here. Make sure you check for new videos, new content all the time. Look for your notifications in your subscription boxes. I am Nick Nightmare, coming to you each and every week, day, whenever I feel like it, with the latest in wrestling and sports and entertainment, because we're an all-in-one, fully functional entertainment company. Thank you guys for being here. I love you guys. Have a good one.